It really is like, I don't know, like, do you find being here that it's like odd, like, do you cater to tourists a lot with the restaurant? Do you like have that mindset, or is it like, because there's not many locals around here, right?
No.
Yeah.
No, and it feels like it's getting fewer
Oh,
locals.
really?
Yeah. Just in town, like living in town.
Yeah.
Seasonally, it's definitely catering more towards visitors, but I don't know, like we try and do certain things year round
Yeah.
that's nice for locals. Like you can always get $1 PBR during happy hour.
Nice.
Yeah, it's
Yeah. So you guys started, was it 7 or 8 years ago?
2013.
Okay. And you, I mean, so you're from Delaware, right?
Yes.
What was that like, thinking about moving to Lake Placid? Did you move here and then open like with the intention of opening, or did you guys move here and then open the restaurant?
So yeah, moved up with the intention of opening a restaurant.
Yeah.
So Delaware, then DC, then up here, and I just fallen in love with like the hiking, skiing, all that stuff. And then kind of started just like honing in on like what niche makes the most sense. Because I didn't have like an extensive background in barbecue. I was just a very accomplished home cook that grew up around the industry because my mom has a restaurant.
Oh, cool. From back home?
Yeah,
Okay.
in Greenville, Delaware.
Nice.
They get listed as like one of the best pizza restaurants in the country all the time.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'm super proud of it. It's really good.
What's the name of it?
Pizza by Elizabeth's.
Okay.
So yeah, came up and then started honing in on the concept, kind of determined there wasn't any legit barbecue up here.
Yeah.
And probably wasn't for, a good distance also. So bought a little smoker, started smoking at home.
Yeah.
I had never made so many bad meals in my life. Yeah, the first couple were they were terrible, and it was really frustrating. 'Cause it's just like a different style of cooking.
Yeah. Yeah, it really is. I started getting into smoking during the pandemic.
Okay.
And I use a Weber kettle to do it, and I use like the snake method and the chips on top. And I found, oddly enough, like pork shoulder was like the hardest thing for me.
Interesting.
Like I did ribs and brisket and pork was the most challenging. I kept up pulling it early.
Okay. Yeah.
The brisket, I've only done one brisket. Unfortunately, I bought it at like the height of beef prices.
Okay.
So I paid like $220 for like a 12-pound brisket.
Oh my God. Did you really?
Yeah, it was crazy. It was nuts.
Wow.
And it was like during official lockdown. So I drove an hour and a half away to this place called Earlville to buy it off of a local farmer.
Well, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, so that was really cool, but it was $225. And I'd never done it before, and I thought it would be a good idea on the first one to also invite like 10 friends over into our backyard that night.
Okay,
so,
up the stakes.
Yeah. So I was like, all right, I'm starting this at like 5 in the morning. Everybody's showing up at 6. I really hope this works out.
Yeah.
Because if it doesn't, it's going to suck. And it worked out. So that was good.
Nice.
Ribs weren't bad. It was just, I didn't have a hard time with those either. But for some reason, pork, it took me like 4 or 5 times to really kind of try and figure it out.
That's funny, and it was just pulling it too early.
Right. And then the third time I went way too late, and it was just kind of like mush,
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Yeah. So what do you use to smoke? Do you smoke, you use like a stick burner? You guys smoking inside and like a...
Yeah, so we have 2 7-foot by 7-foot by 7-foot rotisserie smokers.
Oh, cool.
They're awesome.
Yeah.
And we really grew into them. Like initially we opened up with 4 small smokers.
Okay.
But quickly the demand outpaced what we could produce.
Yeah.
So invested in those, which are like serious pieces of equipment.
Yeah, for sure.
But it's nice because you get every single thing you would out of like the most traditional smoking apparatus.
Okay.
But these take a lot of the guesswork away.
Yeah.
Which is really nice. We don't have someone here overnight as a pit master or anything.
Right.
All the heat and all the smoke comes directly from wood combustion.
Yeah.
But the temperature is digitally controlled.
Yeah.
So it's kind of telling, the auger how much wood to feed the fire.
That's cool.
So it's nice. It's great because less guesswork.
Yeah.
Less staffing needed.
Yeah, for sure.
And also consistent product, right?
Right. Yeah, yeah, because that business can be like I lived in Central Texas for like 3 years, and we did the social for a guy who had just this small trailer in Buda, Texas. Really cool, like he everything that you got from them, because his parents were Mexican immigrants.
Okay.
And they used to live in like Corpus Christi when he was growing up, which is right down the border, and then they moved up towards Austin. So Buda is like a suburb of Austin. But he just had this tiny trailer. But because of his heritage, everything that you got from them, no matter what, came in a tortilla.
Okay.
And they made the they made the tortilla as they had the dough ready, and then they flattened it. And
oh, that's awesome.
threw
Yeah.
it, like as soon as you ordered. So you got this, like if you ordered a pound of brisket, it came in this fresh hot tortilla.
That's really cool.
But he would be up all the time. It was like him and his son and his wife.
Yeah.
They were up all the time. Someone was overnight watching the smoker, because they had to smoke overnight to make sure it was ready for lunch the next day.
For sure. I mean, that's one of the biggest challenges that's been consistent for us since day one is you're really always guessing how many covers are we going to do tomorrow.
Yeah.
So how much are we going to smoke tonight? Because once we're out, and it's funny. I mean, we've had times that, knock on wood, not often, but we've had times that it's 7 o'clock.
Yeah.
We're wiped out of brisket or we're wiped out of ribs, and people can get pretty upset, especially they're like, I waited in line 3 hours.
Right.
I was here before you opened, waited in line.
Yeah.
And then got to the door, then had to wait more. And now I'm finally sitting down and you're out of brisket? Like, Are you kidding me? And they get all freaked out. And
Yeah.
it's not a steak. I
know.
Can't throw it on the grill.
Yeah.
when it's out, it's out. And we try hard not to disappoint. But
Have you noticed that's gotten worse in the past year and a half of customers getting upset over that kind of stuff?
I would say we've gotten better at
okay.
guessing.
Yeah, that's cool.
So it's happening a lot less frequently.
Yeah.
Still can.
Yeah.
But
I hate waiting in lines. I'm just an impatient person.
me too.
I have a buddy back in Syracuse who, the first season of American Idol, he's a really talented musician, singer, songwriter, plays guitar. He drove from Syracuse across country to Los Angeles to audition. Got to the audition, saw that there was a 4-hour wait to get in, and decided not to audition because he can't stand waiting in lines that much. And
That's spectacular.
Right? Isn't that the best? Yeah. So when he told me that, I was crying, laughing for 10 minutes, But when it comes to something really great, like a really great restaurant, I don't know, as a customer, I think if somebody is selling out of something, I'm like, that's amazing. I want that even more.
Right.
Let's get there earlier next time,
the scarcity can kind of build the demand type thing.
Yeah, for sure. I've got a buddy back home. There's this donut shop called Glazed and Confused.
Okay.
And he's been open for, I think, 3 years now. But on Friday mornings, every Friday they do Fill It Friday, and it's a different filled donut. And people are lined up a block, 2 blocks long to get this donut, and they are usually sold out within an hour, hour and a half. And the line's bigger the next week, because people want to get that donut. So,
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. When I see a restaurant that sells out, I'm like, wow, that's amazing. That means it must be good.
Right. Because no one wants to run out of product.
Right.
I'd love to keep selling you product.
Yeah, for sure.
It's in my best interest.
Yeah. That's pretty funny. So what was the biggest shock in the beginning of getting this restaurant open? I mean, you come, obviously, your family's in the business, but what was the biggest surprise when you guys were first getting open?
I'd say it was there were a lot of people that wanted to see it fail.
Oh, really?
And I wasn't necessarily mentally prepared for that because I was also only 27,
Okay.
I think. So I was shocked to kind of feel, to feel that. And it came from wasn't local. Had just moved up here, was young, was trying to do something great.
Right.
And I feel like when you combine those 3 things, in most any small town, there's going to be a portion of the population that wants to put you in your place. So that was definitely a challenge early on, and more so just personally than on a restaurant level. It was just tough to feel like that.
Yeah.
But I mean, restaurant-wise, just finding the right systems.
Yeah.
You know, I feel like a lot of first-time,
Oh yeah.
you know, owners, you think you know exactly how it's going to run and how you're going to be able to do it.
Right.
And a month in, you're kind of scrapping half of the original plan, finding better ways to do things.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think that was kind of,
Yeah, I hear that a lot from. I mean, even restaurant owners like that have been in it for a while, who it's just those systems. It's trying to figure out like, they often say, I hear it. I think from more than not, I don't know. I don't really know what I'm doing, but we're doing it, and we're open, and people are coming in, and
sure.
I don't know if there is. I mean, I'm sure Danny Meyer would have like a different something else to say, but I don't know if there is like a, follow A, B, C, D, and E,
right,
in order to have the successful restaurant.
Yeah, there's so much that goes into it. I mean, and things that are out of your control once you start too. I mean, like location. Once you pick it,
right,
that's where you are. And I mean, yeah, luckily we have a good one.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, there's so much that goes into it. Yeah, it's crazy. I agree. There's no specific recipe for how to do it right.
Yeah. Do you still enjoy being a restaurant owner?
Most days.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I've always had to wear a lot of hats here and wanted to. So I've always been much more involved in the kitchen than on the front of house side of things.
Okay.
Much happier, cooking, cracking jokes with the guys behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Than being out shaking hands, kissing babies type thing.
Right.
Just fits my personality more. But yeah, so I used to do that, combined with all of our accounting, combined with all of our private events booking, combined with probably 10 other things.
Yeah.
And then like I actually got to step back a little bit as I started having kids, and that was really nice.
Yeah.
But then kind of like the nationwide staffing crisis combined with COVID and everything that most everyone's been going through the last year and a half. It's really forced me back into cool. I'm prep cooking. Then I'm picking up my kids from school, and then maybe I'm coming back and I'm line cooking.
Yeah.
And it's a whirlwind. And I love it. Like I love cooking. But I love hanging out with the kids too. So it's like a fine balance.
Yeah. What was it like up here during the height of the pandemic? Was it like a wasteland? Was it really, really dead, or were people still coming up here?
I think it was probably one of the best places to be
Really?
honest. And the least changed,
Oh,
really.
really?
Tourists still came up. Last summer was one of the best anyone's ever had up here.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like whether how real versus perceived,
Right.
who knows?
Yeah.
But it was perceived as, kind of a safe haven.
Cool.
In our case, numbers or whatever
Yeah.
have remained really low overall.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, even for Essex County as a whole, most of the time it's been low, but definitely in this immediate area.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it's kind of been, and then also just being in the industry, like it's funny, I'll talk to friends, family from different parts of the country, and their world has changed, and especially like 6 months ago, a year ago, whenever it was at its peak.
Right.
They were living these completely different lives, and I was like, well, my kids are still in school, and I'm still going to work at a restaurant. I'm still surrounded by people, and my life didn't change all that much, aside from like having to grill in a mask and just being like, this is so unbearably hot right now. That was a tough one on staff, man.
Oh, I bet.
Was just like, I know you don't want to, but we absolutely have to.
Yeah.
And there were people checking, and it's just like, sorry, like quit if you have to, but you got to wear the mask right now.
Yeah, the state liquor authority was like really on top of that,
Yeah, it was interesting that they kind of became the enforcement on that.
Right. We had a couple friends who own food trucks, and last summer they would get their health inspection, and if you weren't wearing a mask while on the truck, it was like I forget what they call it, a red violation or whatever. It was like the highest violation you could get just for not having your mask on the truck for the health inspection. So yeah, it was pretty intense there for a little bit. I mean, there's definitely more than a few places that were getting those $1,000 fines for not having masks on or anything like that back home. Yeah, it's things are definitely a lot more laxed in like Syracuse at least. Central New York with like the mask mandates with being vaccinated or not vaccinated. And there are still places like there's the big New York State craft like brew fest that's coming up in November down there, and you have to be vaccinated if you want to attend the event.
Okay.
And now that like cases are kind of rising a little bit more places are going to masks for staff, and they're getting some pushback. There was at the state fair, which is right in Syracuse, the fairgrounds. Their policy was, if you're inside a building, you have to wear a mask. If you're outdoors, you don't have to.
Okay.
And we have, there's a distillery down there who had a booth inside and a booth outside. And he was completely staffed for the fair, which was a miracle. And then his staff realized that if they were inside, they had to wear a mask, and half of them quit. So
I believe it.
Yeah.
If we had to go back to masks, regardless of vaccination status,
Yeah.
I literally think we would probably have to close.
Is this area not doing that right now?
No, if you're fully vaccinated,
Okay.
you don't have to wear a mask.
Okay. I think where I'm staying, I think they have the mask rule no matter what.
Gotcha.
And I for some reason I just assumed it was the whole county was that way. Because I'm still, I see some people walking around town here that are wearing them and some aren't outside.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I did it quick because I wanted to get out of the mask as fast as possible.
Yeah.
I think it was either April, maybe April that I got mine, and
Yeah. It was
I was ready.
What was that like around here? Were a lot of people for it, or is it like, is it a small community and a lot of people were like against it, like you would typically think, or?
Yeah, definitely a mixed bag.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people were kind of 50-50,
Yeah.
and it's really we're using kind of small things to push them one way or the
Right.
other. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
whether it's just like, cool, I don't want to work in a mask anymore, so I'm going to do it for that reason. I
Right.
don't care otherwise, but I'm done with this mask, you
Yeah.
know? But yeah, I mean, there's definitely some people, like anywhere,
Right. Yeah.
that they're going to track you with it and all the
Yeah.
all the stuff that's
Yeah.
out there.
Right. They might be, but I'm still glad I got vaccinated.
Right. Well, and I have an iPhone, and
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Elon Musk was, he's talking about Neuralink and the potential of that coming out one day, and people freaking out over the thought of that being a possibility, and technology like being that much a part of your life. But he was saying, your iPhone is literally a part of you. There's like things that only you can do in your iPhone.
Right.
So, yeah, I got vaccinated pretty early. Like being in this side of in restaurants, I was able to like get it when all the other restaurant workers did.
nice.
And I just remember standing in line, like they did it at this big convention center in Syracuse. And so I just remember standing in like this massive convention center, and there's just line, like this zigzag line, like hundreds of people in there. And I felt like it was in a movie. I was like,
yeah, totally.
texting my brothers. I was like, I'm kind of freaking out, not about getting vaccinated, just from what I'm staring at right now.
Right.
Yeah.
Ours was pretty cool. So ours was up in Plattsburgh.
Okay.
And it was like right at the airport.
Oh, cool.
So I mean, I could be inaccurate when I say this, but I'm pretty sure it was just in like a big airplane hangar.
Oh, that's cool.
So you didn't even get out of your car.
Oh,
You
wow.
waited in line in your car. You drove through the hangar in your
Yeah.
car. You'd roll down the window. They'd give you your shot
Yeah.
and drive out. Which, yeah, it was pretty slick.
Yeah.
I mean, I would prefer that to standing in line.
Yeah, for sure. We did that for a couple testing sites up there. It was
Okay.
like drive in and get tested and drive out. So I unfortunately got COVID back at New Year's Eve.
Oh,
Yeah, so it was awful. It was so bad before I got vaccinated, obviously. But so last New Year's. But yeah, it was not fun. Not fun to have. I got it from work, and then my wife got it. Yeah, definitely not a fun experience getting COVID.
no.
The weirdest thing is the taste and smell. Like, I lost that for like 4 or 5 days, and it was really, really strange.
Yeah, it's got to be just so off-putting.
Yeah, like I'm a bigger guy, and so I like if we order pizza and wings, you're like using blue cheese, and it was like the second day I'd lost taste, and we ordered pizza, and I like went to dip my pizza in blue cheese, and I was like, why am I doing this? I can't taste it. There's zero
no
point. Why?
You're just slapping more calories on
Right.
there.
And then, yeah, it's like there's a lesson in this, for later on in life after I'm out of COVID.
That's too funny. Yeah. It's amazing how powerful like just the human brain is, because my girlfriend for a period of time, like a night basically,
Yeah.
all of a sudden had convinced herself that she had it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and it was when we were quarantined because we had both been like exposed.
Yeah.
Neither of us had tested positive. Neither of us had symptoms.
That's good.
But all of a sudden she was convinced she had it.
Yeah.
And was convinced that she couldn't smell or taste. So, I mean, end of the story, she doesn't have it.
Yeah.
But she literally picks up a bottle of vodka, pours some in a glass. It's like warm. She's not, this is not how she drinks.
Yeah.
If she's doing a shot, it's like a kamikaze, or,
Right,
you know what
yeah.
I mean? So it's warm vodka, downs it, it's like, couldn't taste a thing. So her brain had just completely
That's
freaked her
awesome.
out, had
Yeah.
like stopped her senses from even working.
That's nuts.
Yeah, I still give her a hard time for that one.
Yeah. Yeah, I bet. Yeah, that was just a strange thing, man. Especially like I know a couple chefs who had it, and them losing their taste and smell really, really bothered them.
Yeah, I'm sure.
I mean, they were quarantined. It's not like they couldn't taste while they were cooking, but it just really freaked them out. But luckily, I started taking zinc like as soon as like I lost it, and then it came back, pretty quickly. And I know other people who had COVID, and here a few months later, they still don't have their taste or smell back.
No kidding.
So yeah, so it's strange, but yeah.
I'm lucky. I don't know a ton of people directly that have had it.
That's good. Yeah.
And the couple that I do, because we had, I think, 2 positive cases throughout the whole thing here at the restaurant.
Wow.
So I mean, I feel pretty fortunate that it's only 2.
Yeah.
But they both were completely asymptomatic.
That's great.
Yeah, and just had gotten tested for, one of them was like moving out of state, and it was like a requirement, or it was kind of just like happenstance they even got tested.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I haven't been in contact with a lot of people that have really gone through it.
Yeah, I did a podcast back, it was supposed to be the St. Patrick's Festival in Syracuse, or the parade. They had just canceled that like that week due to COVID. They hadn't shut restaurants down yet. They were like doing 50% capacity. And I had a podcast that morning I recorded with a like chocolatier in Syracuse. And he and I are on the podcast talking about, yeah, it sucks, but in 2 weeks, everything will be fine. We'll be back to normal, like went on and on about 2 weeks, 2 weeks,
Yeah,
2 weeks.
yeah.
And I had like edited and put that episode out like a month and a half later, and just thought how incredibly stupid that was.
Right.
Here we are a month and a half later, and we're talking about 2 weeks, it'll be done. But I don't know. I think, it's taught, back home, I see it a lot. Like it's taught a lot of restaurant owners, I'm sure, like business owners in general, to really like be prepared for anything that could happen.
Yeah.
I mean, that's beyond worst case scenario, right? Being shut down, and but I talk to a lot of people that they're like, we're not going to do that upgrade right now that we maybe could, or maybe we should. We're just going to sit on that money and wait and see if anything happens again.
Very understandable.
Yeah, for sure. And a lot of them started like just sourcing their food a lot differently, trying to get more local, if they possibly could. Especially right now. I mean, there's, I hear stories of like Cisco dropping accounts because they, it's too small of an account and they don't have the drivers to,
Sure. I mean, it's definitely not just them, but yeah.
It's so it's crazy. So I think there's a lot of good things that came out of it, and those are some of them.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. I forget if I've asked this or not, but what's it like? Do you have a mindset that you're working, like you're like appealing to tourists all the time when you're running the restaurant, like when you're thinking through like a menu item or anything like that?
We pretty much do at this point. Like we do what we do, and we do it really well, and we do it the same every single day. We used to do seasonal menus and really change things a lot, and for lots of reasons. you know, some with staffing, some with just efficiencies, some, you know, we really have just honed in on like, this is what we are, you know, and we don't stray from it much, to be honest. So yeah, I don't think there's a ton that we do that's necessarily tourist or local specific. We just make really good food. And it's funny because originally when we opened, we were doing kind of more than just that. We were like a concert venue also. We use that space now for like lots of weddings in-house and corporate events and that type of stuff that we do, because we have like a full service catering in-house and you know, catering at other places program that we offer. But yeah, so when we opened, we were doing these like big 150 to 200 person shows like upstairs. You know, we were open kind of like late night, not like 3 a.m. or anything, but you know, on the weekends we were consistently open till like 1. You know, so we were like a lunch spot, a dinner spot, a late night spot, a venue. And it all went well. You know, it wasn't like any of it was like a failure or anything. But over time, you know, just honed in on like, well, what do we want to be? And what do people enjoy the most out of what we do? And it's just really good food and drink and service, and that's what we focus on now is you know, we do dinner, hopefully soon again, 7 nights a week. And yeah, I'm really proud of what we put out.
Right, so you guys are closed right now on Wednesdays, right?
Yes.
Is that just like this? That's obviously like the slowest day.
It also happened to be when we didn't have any private events booked.
That's cool.
You know, because we have a random one on a Monday, or we had one on Monday and Tuesday this week, actually. And Thursdays, especially once like Can-Am hockey gets to town, sometimes we get events on Thursdays. Mondays can also be like the tail end of a long weekend. So yeah, I wouldn't say that it was like overly scientific as to why we chose Wednesday. Kind of just fell in our lap and made sense.
So how, like, you know, your mom has, is the pizzeria still there?
Yeah, they've got to be between 25 and 30 years of operation, because I'm 35.
Okay. And like growing up, what was that like? With like, were you there all the time with the family, you know, hanging out?
Sure,
working?
Definitely not all the time. I wouldn't want to overstate it. So she does that. My dad owns a big national real estate company.
Cool.
But yeah, I mean, from when I was young and would stand on like a little step stool and like work in the prep kitchen, and you know, I mean, I'm sure I wasn't being too helpful, but everyone got a kick out of it, and it kept me entertained while she was working. You know, so everything from that to, you know, then when I was in either middle school or high school, you know, like I would host before I was old enough to serve. And then I served. I actually did more front of house stuff there than cooking there. But yeah, always have cooked a ton at home, and cooked a lot with my mom at home too.
My parents owned a diner, and we used to live in northern Kentucky, and so they had a diner for just over a year, like a 50s style diner. And probably not the right place for that sort of a, because it was like your typical. Actually, I'm just gonna reset the camera real quick. Yeah, so that was like your typical New York style diner. You know, like it's like maybe upstate New York style. You know, like big menu. You know, have you ever been to like Cincinnati area before?
No.
So they have like a cheese coney, they call it. Or Cincinnati chili is like a thing. And,
yeah, I've heard of their chili.
So it has like chocolate in it, you know, and cinnamon, and like the ground beef is like really fine. But they do a 3-way, which is spaghetti, chili, mustard, onions, and then like a pound of shredded cheese, which sounds disgusting, but it's really good. And then they have a cheese coney, which is essentially just like a chili dog, but they're small.
Oh, nice.
So at my dad's, at the family diner, you could get that. You get, you know, eggs and, you know, potatoes and whatever, like normal breakfast. But then for lunch or dinner, you could get chicken parm or a sausage. You know, it was just
the like classic, super expansive diner menu.
Exactly. And I was maybe like 9 or 10 years old at the time, and I was homeschooled, so I was up there all the time. I mean, every day, all day. And, that, you know, for that year, it was just like, that's where we were. That's
you were living it,
yeah. It was probably 2 years with like the build and all that kind of stuff.
Sure.
But yeah, I remember there was this, a couple days a week, there was this break from like 2 to 3:30 in the afternoon where the waitresses, like there was no waitresses, there was no dishwasher, and there was no cook.
Okay.
So I would like go and take a couple tables and then go in the back and help my dad cook the food and then clean the dishes afterwards, you know.
That's awesome.
And I mean, I was 9, so of course, you know, being in a restaurant, I was like, yeah, this is amazing. This is the
Right.
And we had some, you know, arcade games, so I get to go steal quarters and play arcade games, you know. But looking back on it now, it's like it's such a commitment for a family to have a restaurant like that, you know. I mean, I know, you know, plenty of families that, you know, that's back home that we work with that's where they are all the time,
Right.
you know. But I don't think I've ever met somebody who like had like their family had a place growing up that they also weren't in the food industry later in life.
Sure.
You know.
It does seem to kind of trickle down like that.
Yeah. They just, in one way, shape, or form, they're still in the industry.
Well, and it's such like a lifestyle too, you know what I mean? I mean, your hours of work are super different than the rest of the world.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I'm not old, but
Yeah.
I'm not young.
All right.
And it's just funny to think about, because like I don't have any social media for myself. I don't.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm a bit of a hermit with that type of stuff.
Yeah.
But I think about, you know, I think about all the things that I happen to know of
Yeah.
strictly because I'm surrounded by young people at the restaurant.
Yeah.
You know, stupid stuff. Like, I know who Cardi B is. I would never know who Cardi B is. You know?
Yeah.
And just Snapchat.
Right.
I wouldn't be aware that that existed. So it's nice. It makes me feel like I'm still like in touch
Yeah.
while still getting to be a bit of a hermit.
Right. Yeah. So were you ever on any social media?
I did like instant messenger.
Okay, yeah.
When I was, you know, like middle school, high
Right,
school.
yeah.
I got Facebook for maybe a month.
Okay.
And it was only because I was trying to date who eventually became my wife.
Uh-huh.
I was trying to date her, and we were having a hard time syncing up, and she was
Yeah.
like, well, if you were on Facebook, it would be easier for us to like sync up. And I was like, okay. So once we went on our first date or two, I was like, cool, I'm off Facebook.
Yeah. That's awesome. And how old are you? Like 35?
35,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, it's why. I mean, it's that sounds actually kind of amazing. Like, there is. I don't know if you know this or not, but the other day, what was it, Monday or Tuesday? I think it was Monday. There was like a Facebook, Instagram outage.
I do, but only because of here. Yeah.
Yeah. And you know, for myself, you know, I've got 3 cell phones, and because we have 18, you know, marketing clients, and primarily what we do for them is manage their social media. So we have to have you can only have so many Instagram accounts per phone
Okay.
before you have to get a new device, which is absolutely insane whenever I say that to somebody.
That's really wild, yeah.
Yeah. But Monday was a great day for me. I didn't have to worry, there was no, you know, comment that I had to respond to on somebody, you know, no customer asking, you know, or making a dumb comment like, hey, the steak looks too rare for me, you know, that we had to respond to. So Monday was a great day. Yeah.
I've never seen any dumb comments.
Yeah, because the restaurant doesn't have, like, I was looking up on Instagram, you guys don't have like for what I'm assuming is a successful restaurant, right? You've been here this many years and have this great spot, so you got to be doing something right. But you
Yeah, I
don't
mean,
have a huge social presence.
No, and I mean, I think because we don't, you know, like, we do have Facebook for the restaurant.
Yeah.
And I think because we don't use it often,
Yeah.
when we do, it like blows up, honestly.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I mean, from my understanding of what blowing up would be. But yeah, no, I don't know. I mean, it's not uncommon for us to post something and have, you know, without like boosting it or anything
Yeah.
like that, you know, organically like a 10 to 15,000 person reach.
Wow.
And, you know, hundreds and hundreds of engagements. And,
Yeah.
you know, like when we say like the deck is open for this season.
Yeah.
it's kind of fun to watch, and it's addictive to watch, which is probably why I'm staying away from this, because I could see myself being way
sure.
too focused on it.
Yeah, it's definitely, I think it probably is a disease, to like have an addiction. It really is terrible at the end of the day.
Well, I know myself. I have like a very addictive personality, and
right. Yeah.
Keep my vices to a minimum.
Yeah, for sure. I'm the same way. I get really obsessed with things, and so, trying to create content for people all the time and thinking of what's going to work is, after a while it gets kind of annoying. Actually, so the last time I was, telling you before we started that the last time I was up here was like 5-6 years ago, and we had just started the social media portion of the business. And I started with a friend of mine, and we had full-time jobs, and we worked at a mattress retailer in town.
Okay.
And so we made really great money, but we had if you worked a 10-hour shift, you sat there and did nothing for 8 hours.
Gotcha.
Because you just waited for a customer to show up. So one day we're talking, we're so bored, we should start a side hustle. And so I was like, I know how to do social media. We can do that for local places. So we did. And I think we had 2 clients at the time. And have you ever been a smoker, cigarettes?
Yeah.
Okay. So I used to too. And I remember when I had my first cigarette and I was getting nauseous. My cousin told me, he's like, oh, you just got to smoke through that. Just smoke through the nausea. It'll be fine. And he was right, but then you're addicted to cigarettes,
right.
And nicotine. So, and that's kind of how social media is what I found. So when I came up here, I was just so burned out. It was like the nausea of social media and having to have a phone on all the time, that I was either going to break my phone and stop the business, or I needed to take a break. So I drove up here to Lake Placid for a break.
That's too funny.
Yeah, and it's pretty annoying. And I think about the things that are important to me, and what I talk about with other friends that are in the business, and talking about oh, this one got this many likes, or this one got that many likes. So,
sure.
Yeah. At the end of the day, it's probably not that important. Yeah.
But it is to a lot of people, which kind of makes it important.
Yeah.
Right? I guess.
Yeah. I don't know, man. My wife and I, we have this goal. We just, so I just started doing this business full time a month ago. So September 1st was I did the marketing for a restaurant equipment and small wares company back in Syracuse. And so I quit to do this full time.
Okay.
We brought on 2 partners to come in and help us, and we're talking to them, meeting with them for a month and a half about, when we're talking about bringing them on, and they're asking us goals, and I'm like, listen, I want to be done in 5 years. I want to be either sell the business or make enough money to retire early or, something. And, and they're like, well, what would you do from then? And I'm like, buy a house on a lake and just relax. And my wife, Rebecca's like, there's no way in hell that you're ever going to be able to do that, because she just sees 3 cell phones all the time.
Sure, yeah.
Which is true. I think that I would just be really obsessive over, chopping wood or
sure.
reading books or, enjoying the water or family or something.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, I think that those obsessions are, just, you're going to have them and want for something.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But yeah, there are a lot of people that social media is, it's their thing. It can be healthy, I guess, in some ways. But it can also be really unhealthy.
Yeah. So I've heard.
Yeah. Yeah, that's amazing. I have a buddy, Trey, who has, for years he had a flip phone.
Okay,
and
yeah.
he felt that having an iPhone with Google Maps on it would make him dumb. So he refused to get it, and he would just get lost if he got lost. But he would he would ask people for directions all the time. He'd be like, just use your phone. And he didn't have one, And he finally caved, but for a while, all he had was a flip phone.
I respect that.
Yeah.
It's a good holdout.
Yeah. Oh, so what do you think is well, you guys opened the patio here. It was reading online just 3 or 4 years ago?
Sounds about right.
Okay.
Yeah, 3 or 4 years ago.
Yeah. What do you think is...
I've been in young kid, dad life for the last 5. So time, the meaning of time has really changed for me.
What was that like going from not being a dad to being a dad and being in the restaurant industry?
Sure. Crazy, honestly. Really, really crazy. Yeah, I mean, I never was, at least not since early on. It's not like I was ever the last one here locking up or anything.
Yeah.
So, my hours aren't totally insane.
Yeah.
If I'm working operationally, I'm here till 9, 10 o'clock.
Yeah.
Nonetheless, like, I had a pretty good built-in excuse, which I maybe use as an excuse too much, for like not doing like nighttime wake-ups and stuff.
Yeah.
And because I mean, you're definitely like I was saying before, you're on a different schedule than the rest of the world, and you're definitely on a different schedule than newborns and moms and all that. But yeah, and then just trying to like carve away as much time as possible to like be with the kids, and it's my favorite thing in the world. Like being a dad is the absolute best. But then and then my wife and I split up, so then that changed everything again. So now, like I've got the kids half of the time, pretty hard to work that half. I'll do like some morning prep shifts or some office work because now they're both in school finally for the first time this year. My youngest is in school now. But yeah, so then it's like when I don't have them, work, kind of catch up on everything. So yeah, it's an interesting dynamic.
Yeah, I bet. It's yeah. Are you happy? Like, you think, do you kind of view it as kind of like the same thing like you grew up with, like one day like they'll be in the restaurant with you and stuff like that? Is that a hope, or do you think you want to try and keep them out of the industry?
If they come in the restaurant, I would like for them to work in the kitchen. That is my that would be my one hope.
Yeah.
Because I don't know how to say this. It's hard work. The kitchen is hard work.
Yeah.
And being front of house, it's not that it's not hard. You have to deal with really mean people sometimes. Like, I feel like it's emotionally more taxing.
Yeah.
But you can walk away with a pretty ridiculous amount of money.
Yeah, for sure.
From one shift. Whereas, I guess I just like the work versus compensation and just the mindset and everything you have to really succeed in a kitchen and in the back of the house. I'd love to see them tackle that instead of waltz in, hit a few tables, and make bank.
That's
it's all important. Don't get me wrong.
That's really interesting. Yeah, it's true, man. I mean, you can't have a bad day in this industry, and you really shouldn't have a bad day on any side of this. But I feel like you can almost get away with it at front of the house. If you're in the kitchen and you're having a bad day and you screw up somebody's food or something like that, that's it's not a good time at all.
No, no,
not in the slightest.
Well, and there's such a trickle-down effect on a line too. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, one person's having a bad day, even if it's like whether it's professionally or personally.
Right.
You know what I mean? And it just starts to like wear on the dude next to you or the girl next to you.
Yeah.
You know, and then they're thrown off because they're kind of like looking over like, do I have to help him? What's going on? Blah, blah, blah. They're missing stuff. It's really easy. I mean, especially if we're not the highest volume restaurant in town, I mean, I'm pretty sure we are.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, there's a handful that really, really crank, and we're definitely in that handful. And yeah, it's kind of like when you're doing that many covers, the slightest little hitch in your giddy up, can really, really throw things off.
Yeah. Was that the goal when you first opened, was just like, let's go to Lake Placid and open up a restaurant? Did you have goals of like, one day I want to be this big, or, No,
it definitely grew way bigger than I desired. Not that I didn't desire it either, but it outgrew the original expectation or hope. Yeah, for sure. Especially with like the event side of things. Yeah, like we do a lot of private engagements.
That's such a big deal for restaurants.
It
Catering,
is.
Private events, all that kind of stuff. And I mean, I've got friends back home who do they crush that stuff, especially right now. I've got a buddy, they own and run Limp Lizard Barbecue, and there's 3 locations, and then they have a food truck.
Nice.
And their food truck business for catering this past year with COVID has been absolutely insane.
I bet, man. That's ideal.
Yeah. I mean, it's in some cases it can outpace. I mean, it does outpace other big restaurants in town just out of their catering and their food truck. And yeah, that can be like, it can be stressful when you're like doing a lot of big stuff, a lot of big events or important events, you know.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, it's especially like right now, you know, when we're understaffed to begin with,
Right.
and then we're bringing up all these event sheets to the kitchen. And we're like, all right, so in addition to doing, you know, 500 to 600 covers for dinner in-house tonight, we're going to be doing this 200-person offsite wedding.
Yeah.
So let's go, team.
That's nuts.
And it definitely did. Like, it really did take a toll on some of the kitchen staff this summer, just because there was less of them.
Yeah,
and,
for sure, man.
You know, I try and, when I'm not with the kids, I try and, like, live it with them as much as possible, so they don't feel underappreciated, or they don't feel like I don't know what I'm asking of them.
Yeah.
But it's different for them. You
Right.
know what I mean? And I get that. And
Yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, I think it's going to be an interesting time for us, and presumably most restaurants moving forward, how you balance how much you want to take on versus, you know, how happy your staff is.
Right.
'Cause I've always like tried to be a great employer. Like, I feel like we've always paid, especially like the kitchen, more money than anyone else does locally, because I always wanted to be able to know and say, like, we take care of our guys because the job is fucking hard.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, just finding that balance between, like, okay, the restaurant needs to make money to stay open,
Right.
but also these guys have to want to come here every day to stay open. You know, it's never felt more precarious in that sense.
Yeah. That's pretty cool to hear you talk about, like, you know, talk about taking care of the staff that way. I mean, I've never met an owner who said that they don't care about the staff or anything like that, but to kind of like know that you're asking a lot of them, you know, especially in a place this busy. That's cool.
Thanks. Yeah. I mean, I'm friends, or at least friendly, with everyone. You know, a few, like, I actually, like, you know, will golf or go out on a boat or, you know, do something outside of here. But it's nice. I mean, I feel like in this industry, some level, it doesn't have to be like best friends, but
Right.
I feel like some level of personal relationship kind of does, I feel like it goes a long way.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So, do you ever get tired of barbecue, of like eating or smoking it, or, you know, working with it?
You're gonna think I'm full of shit. No, honestly, like, I really, really don't. Maybe working with it. Like, sometimes my eyes just want to see something other than like a half rack of ribs or a brisket plate, or, you know. And I feel like those are the times where I'm just like, hey, what's in the cooler? Let's run a feature. I gotta see something else today. And yeah, I mean, I could, if and when I do, you know, another restaurant, it would be a different concept. I wouldn't want to open another Smoke Signals, just because it would be so much more creatively stimulating. But in terms of enjoying it, like, I still really, really like our food.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And I like barbecue in general. I mean, I still, like, I'll go to Charleston. And I won't load up on barbecue every day, but at least one time I'll be like, all right, let me check out what someone's doing down here. And that's always fun.
There's definitely something, like, I feel, I mean, there's chefs, I've had this argument with a chef back home a lot about, like, whether it's an art or a craft, you know, just like being a talent, like being in the, you know, cook, a chef. You know, he's always said he views it as a craft. Anybody can, like, work it and get it down. And I kind of view it as an art form. Like, and maybe just because I don't want to think that I cannot do what some of these amazing people do. But I feel like when it comes to barbecue, I find more craftsmen. People are just like, because you kind of have to, right? It's like, wake up every day. You have to put your hours in on it, you know.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I mean, if you follow these, whatever, 10, 12 steps, you know, with the raw product that we have and with the smoking apparatus that we have, it's going to come out perfect.
Right.
And there's not a lot of guesswork.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, the biggest thing, and you alluded to it earlier, is just the right time to pull the meat. Because that is the one thing that, regardless of everything else that we've done to try and have like the same exact product day after day after day, how much meat is in a smoker is going to impact your smoke time. We have very tight specs on very high-end items that we buy, like in terms of our brisket, ribs, pork. We buy like the best of all of those, and we have really tight specs on what size they're supposed to be. But even still, you know, I might have a 14-pound brisket in one case and an 8 in the next, and they're not going to finish at the same time. So I feel like if there is an art side to barbecue, I mean, it's really that. It's kind of individually assessing, is this rack of ribs ready to come out? Is this brisket ready to come out? And then you also kind of know the nuances of your equipment too. Like our smokers run hotter on the left side. So pretty much when you first check it, you know, okay, it's left side, it's all gonna be good, we can pull that out. Anything that's left in, you move over to the left side. So yeah, I mean, I guess that's where there's a little more nuance and finesse and whatever, but yeah, to your point, barbecue, I mean, you're rubbing meat, you're smoking meat, and you're either pulling it or slicing it.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time, especially on your day off, man. I really appreciate this.
Yeah, no worries. It was nice to meet you.
Yeah.